Yeah, well, it's time to move on to group chat, which is where we discuss the big topics of the week, one of the biggest stories, and I don't think there's a bigger story this week than Volkswagen.
Sure.
I mean, it's been one of the biggest stories for a while now.
Yeah,
It's been a long, ongoing thing, but finally, yesterday, there was a settlement announced of $4.3 billion, which the company will have to pay to the U.S. government to settle criminal and civil charges. That is in addition to other settlements that have already been...
Like $15 billion worth of...
Yeah.
So altogether, we're at like, what, 20-something?
Something. We'll dig into the numbers in a bit. So this week, that was announced. It's been announced, although I don't think we have confirmation yet about this part, that 6 supervisors at Volkswagen have been indicted as part of this investigation. And an executive at the company was arrested by the FBI for fraud and conspiracy. So, good week for Volkswagen, guys. God, who wants to give us a quick recap of how we got to this godforsaken place?
Quick recap. I mean, I'm not much of a car guy, but we learned...
No, I don't think any of us are. We all live in New York. I'm probably the only one who owns a car.
You own a car.
And that's only begrudgingly.
But yeah, we found a couple years ago that Volkswagen had basically had software in their diesel cars that was cheating emissions tests. And then we learned it also affected some gasoline cars too. Like it became a real mess. And then we learned the company knew about this, or many people in the company did, and it kind of escalated from there.
So just to be really explicit about it, so this was software that was in the systems that actually understood when it was being tested by regulators for emissions, and it would basically like crank the engine down and crank down the emissions so that it could pass these tests and actually be rated as like a super clean car.
Right.
And then the moment it was out of the laboratory and actually on the road being driven by consumers, it cranked the engine back up for performance reasons and then spit out 35 times the legal amount of, which specific gas was it? I probably should have that. It's around here somewhere. Come on. God.
Come on. Yeah,
Either way, it was like
specific one.
It was 35%.
Nitrogen oxide.
Yes,
that's
the
right.
one.
Yeah,
35% of the 35 times the legal limit of nitrogen oxide. Like, it wasn't even like a small discrepancy. It wasn't like, we tweaked. They like tried to like skirt past when they were like barely over. It was like a really dramatic difference.
It's like we're trying to save the planet, guys.
Yeah.
Not, ruin it even more.
Yeah, and so many other ads too. For the longest time, we're touting like the clean nature of diesel. Is that you'll get more miles per gallon with this. And I mean, I used to live in Western Massachusetts, and that's like big like hippie granola country. And yeah, VWs were everywhere there. People were invested in this brand because they thought they were helping the planet. So this is like one of the most evil sort of corporate lies in a very long time.
Yeah, it's. I'm starting to get back into the market for a car at this point. Like mine's on its last legs, and I've always kind of eyed the Volkswagens because, like, we don't have the infrastructure really in New York to support electric cars yet. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment above a liquor store. I can't like do the plug-in thing, and I was like, well, I can do the hybrid, but that's a little bit pricey, or I can do like one of the turbo diesels, which is like. They get really good mileage. They're supposed to be pretty clean and all this stuff. They're reasonably affordable. Some of them are. And now that's like heartbreaking.
Isn't the problem with a lot of their cars that they're like? I know my wife used to have a Jetta back in the day, and she would say that every time something would happen, it would take forever. It was expensive to fix it, and then it would take forever to get the parts and stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of semi-related to this, but
there are downsides for sure to owning it. I'm just gonna.
Also, how did we get to the point of calling it Dieselgate? Like, everything nowadays is just something gate.
It actually is pretty good. Of all of the gates, that's a pretty good one.
Golden Showers Gate, everything.
That's a little bit too much of a mouthful.
You know, it's Golden Gate, Edgar.
Oh, God.
Yes.
So this was what, late 2015? that this started to break?
Well, I think 2014.
Was it 2014?
As I was joining. This has been like ongoing for a while. Yeah.
And it just keeps getting worse, right? Like it started off as like, hey, they did this, and kind of they played it off as like if nobody knew about it, and then nowadays we know like almost everybody at the company knew about it, which is and at least the top execs, which makes it even worse that they were all in on this.
So I mean, the CEO resigned because of this, and that was in 2016, right? Early 2016.
2015. September of 2015. God, which seems like a long time ago. It's crazy that
so
we're
hard
at
to
this
keep
point.
the timeline like straight for this because it's such a tangled mess. It's been going on for so long. Before we move forward in trying to detangle this a little bit, how are they still a company, guys?
I mean,
like
they've
how
been
is
around forever. I mean, you go back to like the history of Volkswagen too, right? And it's not the cleanest history. So
why? Whatever are you speaking about, Devindra?
I don't know, the Hitlermobile and things like that.
They may have been part of that. They
may have been.
May have made cars for the Third Reich. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So if they can survive that, I wonder if they can survive this. I don't know.
I'm not so sure that I don't think they're going to be able to survive. And even if they do, it's going to be like who's gonna trust them to buy another car, especially after, I mean, it's been 2 years and more information keeps coming out. I know if I'm in the market for a car, I'm definitely not buying a Volkswagen. No. So I'm not sure if how other people feel about it, but I have a feeling that it's not looking good for them. I think they just reported about a $5 billion loss last quarter.
Yeah.
And then that was before what we found out yesterday on the $14.7 billion settlement. So it's not looking good. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, I think at this point, in addition to whatever they've just lost because they're operating at a loss because this has damaged their business, they've now paid out they're going to pay out $19 billion as part of these settlements, all told. Plus, they're buying back 500,000 of these cars from customers.
And people are getting what? There was the reports there was going to be $2,000 on top of that, and then 5,000, and they were never came out and said what exactly the amount was going to be. I did just look up how much their revenue was for 2015, and it was $213 billion or euros. So that's, I mean, when you consider that they're only about $20 loss, I guess that's not too much of a hit, but it's a big hit, but it's not a major one. So they could survive.
They could survive. So this kind of brings me to a bigger question, which is they're paying out roughly $20 billion as part of this settlement, probably a little bit over that when all things are said and done between the buybacks and all that stuff. But like you said, they made 220 euros in a quarter. That's one quarter.
No, that was for 2015.
Okay, so that's
for
the
2015.
Year. So either way though, that's still, and we're talking euros instead of dollars, so almost to double that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's such a drop in the bucket for this company that did like an atrocious thing. Fingers crossed, like some of these people go to jail.
Yeah, more people going to jail would be a good thing. Better than the financial crisis.
Well, I mean, that's one of the clear things that I think this connects to is, Volkswagen ripped off its customers, defrauded the American government, destroyed the environment, like pretty actively, and showed no remorse. Like some of the emails and stuff that like have circulated, like the bits and pieces that you have been able to read, like they're atrocious. Like this is a horrible company run by horrible people.
So one of the things we were talking about the gas, just from what I'm gathering here, is that the gas is known to cause respiratory problems and kills up to 30,000 people per year in the UK alone. So this is not it's not an innocent type of gas, if you can call it that. It's something that's really bad for
this is like actively damaging. It causes serious health issues. And they just didn't give a shit. They spit 35 times the legal amount into the air in the U.S.
I want to know like how far up this went. Like, did everybody really know? How long did people know? Like, what was happening here? I can't see Volkswagen really course correcting from this. In a couple of years, like I can imagine them being stripped for parts at some point, and bits and pieces of their intellectual property maybe being sold off.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I mean, fingers crossed. I don't want to say fingers crossed because I don't want people to lose their jobs who had nothing to do with this.
Right.
But at the same time, like, this is a company run, like, not just by the CEO, but clearly by a lot of people higher up the chain.
This is cartoonishly evil. This is like James Bond villain, almost evil,
Yeah, I mean, this is on par with like the pre-financial collapse stuff.
Right,
Like this is on par with the Wall Street stuff that went on. This is cartoonishly evil. This is unbelievable in its scale and how many people who were in on it. Like, and that just nobody saw anything wrong with it. They let it happen. So far, the punishment has been a little bit more reasonable on Volkswagen than it was on a lot of the banks in the mid to early aughts. But
how do you? Sorry to cut you off. How do you guys feel about the government's part of it? Do you think they've taken it easy on them, or do you think are you happy with the results so far? And I think they've gone. I feel like it could be worse for them too. Like I think the $15 billion settlement is still kind of light. So I don't know, but how do you guys feel about that?
I feel like, it could probably be a lot worse. And our country just does a really bad job of punishing companies when they do bad things because there's so many people invested in whatever, other lobbyists or anyone else like indirectly invested in these companies as well. So it makes any sort of real punishment difficult.
Yeah. And I mean, the bigger thing for me is the government always seems to focus on the financial part of it. Like even with the financial crisis, it was, well, we're going to find the bank's money. Well, they have plenty of money. You're literally never going to hurt them by taking their money.
Yeah.
There's always.
I think that's where where them charging, taking people to jail. I think that'll set a really good precedent for other companies to not even try to do this.
Like I was trying to find what the position was that the executive who was arrested held. Oliver Schmidt, right?
Yeah, Oliver Schmidt.
So he was the regulatory head. Like, if that guy goes to jail, that's good. Like, that's a very good thing. He belongs there. Because, I mean, can you imagine if something similar happened? I know that, like, this feels like a bit of a stretch for us, like, as a technology site to be talking about diesel cars.
Phones started exploding?
Yeah, like, but I mean, similarly, imagine,
similarly.
like, if Samsung knew this was a problem and then tried to keep it quiet. They were just like, no, less like we have special software on our phones that keeps them from exploding during the FCC tests. But the moment it's in a person's pocket, just boom. And like, you would want them to go to jail.
I also wonder how much of a role, if any, the CEO played in this. Because in his statements from a while back, he denied any wrongdoing. But he did accept responsibility for I'm quoting here, the irregularities that have been found in diesel engines. But I'm just wondering if the investigation is eventually going to find that he actually knew about this. Right now, he's playing like he hasn't, but I guess that's still to be determined.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever find out if he knew. I will say, regardless of whether he knew or not, I do appreciate that he at least took responsibility. I think a lot of times one of the issues with companies when stuff like this goes down is the CEO just like goes, I had no idea, this isn't my fault. And the truth of the matter is you're the CEO. The fucking buck stops with you. Take responsibility. So, I mean, I will give him that he did that, and that is good. I don't know if it's enough. And if we find out that he knew this was happening, it's definitely not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
I'm with you. I think more people need to go to jail, and that'll set, like I said earlier, that'll set a precedent for other car companies to not even try to do something similar.
This has killed the diesel market in general too. So
not that the diesel market here was great to begin with.
Exactly, it wasn't that great, but it does have far-reaching effects in that respect. And I mean, maybe that's a good thing too. Like if you had to get to a point where you were lying to such a degree to make this technology work and to convince people it was safe, like maybe it should not be here anymore. Maybe we really need to make the push towards renewables. So it's nice to get that kick in the pants at least.
That's the other interesting part. I wonder how they're gonna try to fix their image. You know,
there've been ads. Like I've seen some. Like they've apologized when they went to car shows. Whoever, like the lead executive there, would apologize, and it's like that's nice.
Not enough.
Yeah, no.
Not to go back too far, but I think ultimately the crucial part of this will be people having to go to jail and people having to serve jail time. Because I think, you know, at the end of the day, the financial stuff, that hurts the company maybe a little bit at best, but it doesn't hurt the individual. It doesn't discourage the employees at the company from behaving badly. Like, unless the CEO is paid entirely in stock in the company, there's nothing to dissuade him from acting poorly. The company's going to pay him his multi-million-dollar salary regardless. Oh, God. So literally, as we're sitting here,
oh, God,
breaking news.
Oh, boy.
Fiat Chrysler accused of using software to cheat on emissions tests.
Oh, wow.
Yep. There you go.
Breaking news on the Engadget Podcast, guys. Although this is going up 24 hours after the fact. So I'm just going to quickly
Isn't
look
one
this
of
over.
the isn't Fiat one of the companies that that Trump was taking credit for building plants or planning to build plants in the U.S.?
Yep. Yeah,
So,
that's a thing he tried to take credit for.
Yeah, which
There were some studies too, like I'm just looking here, like there were studies performed after the VW stuff from Volvo, Renault, Jeep, Hyundai, and Citroen. Like all their cars also exhibited similar emissions deviations.
That's the insane part about this too, is that like we know about Volkswagen, but I wonder if there are other companies who are doing the same and we just don't know it yet. I mean, like we just had these breaking news, right? So
So it's 2014 through 2016 model Dodge Ram 1500 pickups, Jeep Grand Cherokees with diesel engines. It's over 104,000 vehicles that are allegedly part of this, according to the EPA. God, so this is just starting. This is going to be an ongoing story now.
oh no.
Here's the one thing I will say, that maybe all of this stuff will demonstrate how important it is that we move away from fossil fuels.
Yep.
How important it is that we get away from gasoline, or at least away from such low mileage gas cars, and really start spurring the move towards hybrids and electric vehicles. That at the end of the day, maybe, just maybe, if giving these companies like a tiny benefit of the doubt, although I'm sure I'm wrong to do so, maybe it actually is technically impossible to reach the emissions levels that the government wants.
For diesel, at least.
For diesel, while maintaining an acceptable level of performance for the consumer. Like, maybe that is a legitimate thing.
So just don't make them.
Yeah, stop making the cars, guys.
that is the thing. That maybe you should stop making it. So hopefully this will spur us on.
This is also, a good thing for Tesla and for all these things happening.
Yeah.
It's a good thing for Tesla.
I mean,
what's bad for Volkswagen and
good for
Chrysler is good for Tesla.
It's not like the batteries and stuff in electrics and hybrids are still full of a lot of toxic and a lot of material that is hard to find.
And you still have to make electricity, which at this point still relies heavily on the use of fossil fuels.
Although Tesla is making like a good effort, like the Solar City acquisition and those freaking like the roof tiles, like that's my dream home right there. Just like slap those on your house, charge up your Tesla. That'd be great.
Fingers crossed one day.
One day.
So yeah, let's end it on a hopeful note. Let's go out on that hopefully all of this scandal will lead to more electric cars.
Sure.
Devindra, do you have any
More
parting
solar
thoughts?
panels.
I mean, it's sort of like the Trump presidency too. Like, I hope like setting things on fire or going so far to like an extremes. Like, hey, maybe we should be better about things. Like in general, like maybe it'll wake people up. So I'm hoping that's the least we could get out of this.
Where can the people find you on the internet?
Twitter at twitter.com/Devindra, and I have podcasts about movies at /film.
Edgar, parting thoughts?
No, I think there's just too much to process here. Lies, what was it? Somebody said back in the day, like, I'm sure there's sex somewhere in there talking about emails. Oh no, Steve Jobs talking about the iPhone back in the day. You know, when the iPhone 4 iPhone 4 ended up in a bar or whatever. Like, there's a drama. There's he said, I'm sure there's sex somewhere in there. So I don't know if there's sex somewhere. I don't know where I'm going with this. That's what I'm saying there.
I think you've lost the train a little bit, but that's okay.
I'm just I'm processing the setting things on fire thing.
Yeah.
So
where can the fine people find you on the internet?
Twitter.com/ABCD, and then my first name, Edgar, ABCD Edgar. I tweet a lot about shoes and things like that. So you should probably not follow me.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
unless you like shoes.
Yeah. If you want tweets about technology, Devindra is the way to go.
Technology and movies.
Yeah. If you want tweets about not technology, Edgar and me are probably the way to go. You can find me on the internet at Terrence O'Brien. As I said, mostly tweet about politics and baseball, not so much technology. But thank you for joining us. Please subscribe in your podcast app of choice. Rate us on iTunes. That helps more people discover the show. If you have comments, questions, suggestions, all of that stuff, hit us up individually on Twitter. You can hit up at Engadget Podcast on Twitter. You can email us, podcast@Engadget. We want to hear from you. We want to make this show enjoyable for you. But before we go, we need to leave you with the comment of the week, which comes from Acme64. Where do I put my unfounded rage?
Wow.
Good question. Good.
I think there's plenty of room in the glove box.
Oh, yeah.